Greetings, fellow quitters, and welcome back to the CMDQ podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Maari Casey.
And I'm John Pelfrey.
Being able to work remotely is in a lot of ways one of the biggest perks of being a freelancer, but it also has its drawbacks. One of the biggest ones is isolation. So not only can we find ourselves really missing the social aspects of being a part of a permanent team, but in certain ways, it can also impact our work. It can be tough to get inspired or make complex, complicated decisions when you are just a party of one. So if you've been working in a bubble lately, we're going to be discussing ways to recapture the helpful parts of being on a team while leaving the rest of it behind.
Yeah.
All right. So John, what don't you miss about working in an office? Traditional office.
So many things that I don't miss. First, I should preface this by saying that in my entire career, I've only spent 4.5 years in an office. I spent the first 2.5 years of my career straight out of college in an office, which was really helpful to learn that world. And then I spent about 2 years in an office in an agency. And then I've worked with one company now for 9 years, mostly from home. We meet every now and then in person. I had business for a few years, worked from home. I also had a job where I traveled a lot and worked from home and I wasn't on the road. So I haven't had a ton of experience with it, but I can tell you that I don't miss the commute. Mm-hmm. That's an obvious one. That's an easy one. But I think the biggest one for me is, especially when I worked at the agency, we had a rule that if you had your headphones on, that meant that like the door was closed, you were in deep work. Don't mess with me. I'm busy. But inevitably, because I was the project management lead, no matter what I was doing, if I had the headphones on and I was working or whatever, somebody'd come and like tap me on the shoulder and be like, "Hey, do you have a minute?" And I would just point to the headphones and they'd say like, "It'll only take 1 minute." And I'm like, yeah, but you just killed my entire flow. And so even if this only takes 1 minute, it's going to take me 10, 15, 20 minutes to get my brain back on task, back to that spot where I was before. And that used to drive me crazy because I'm the type of person that when I work, I will sit down and work and I'll like go for 3 hours straight, not get up, not do anything. I'll just like tunnel vision, boom, and then I'm done. And that's the way I like to work. And so, man, that was not a good place for me. Open offices do not work for my productivity at all. How about you?
Knowing you, I could definitely see that being one of your most annoying things.
It's one of the reasons why, because I didn't feel productive ever.
Yeah. I feel like offices did that. I mean, I think for me, something similar, like I didn't like that people always knew where I was all the time. You know, and a lot of times, even when I was working in agencies and working in offices, I would go and like, I would leave my office and I would go find a little nook or a spot or someplace in the office, but not in my office because I just wanted to be like in control of where I wanted to be and where I wanted to work. And I didn't like always being found. And so that should have been a sign pretty early on. Like I was doomed. I didn't like that people could come and find me and interrupt me, or that there was this, sometimes there's like this socialization, which is good in some ways, but sometimes also like it's a small talk of like, "Hey, how's it going? How's your weekend?" That can be kind of interrupted. So I think that, and then the schedule of being in a regular office, coming in at 8, being there until 6, like everyone kind of knows where you are and when you're leaving and when you're coming. And I did not appreciate that, did not love that. Because some days I want to work 12-hour day. Some days I want to work a 3-hour day because it's sunny and I want to go outside. And so that lack of flexibility, not that I clocked in and out, but just like you always knew who was there and who wasn't there.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say those things.
Yeah, the social pressure to be seen is kind of a silly thing. It's like there are a lot of people that show up to offices just to be seen, but you can tell that they're clearly not working.
Yes.
And it's like,
for sure.
Why do we have to put on this charade? Why does this have to be? Why do we all have to fake it? Especially on the sunny days when why should you feel guilty for wanting to be out in the sun? A couple of days, every month. Like, you're not asking to be out in the sun every single day, all day long. But man, just to take an afternoon and relax the brain and relax all the like stressors and the brain activity and the cortisol from people tapping you on the shoulder and asking you
interruptions.
Sometimes you gotta decompress. Yeah, absolutely. So Maari, when you first started working on your own, after you left that world, how long did it take before loneliness set in for you?
I think the interesting thing, and I'm glad we're talking about this topic because I don't think a lot of people consider it before they leave a regular job to freelance. They don't think about the loneliness factor. And the truth is like most of our social systems baked into our work life, especially when we're young. And so when you pull a traditional work life away, you're by yourself, and you have to create it. And so I didn't think about that. it took me a little bit of time because I actually enjoyed like not getting interrupted for a while and having my own space. And I was getting groceries in the middle of the day, going to the gym. It was just magical. But I think when I realized I didn't have just like this, I was in my 20s. So like the social aspect of like happy hour drinks and like meeting up with friends. And, I was living and working at home. I felt like everybody else was kind of moving on with their social stuff and doing stuff and going to parties and going to events. And I was not included in that because I didn't see that day to day at work. So it's like, I thought I had some friend structures and some of my friends did last after I left, but a lot of them just dropped away. And that was completely normal, but it was a little bit jarring to me because I was like, oh, I thought we had a relationship, but actually, no, we just like talked around the coffee pot. So,
Right.
it was probably in the first like year to 2 years where I was like, all right, I need to create a whole new office situation that's not tied to a building or tied to a business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a trap that young people especially fall into, this idea that like my work friends are my friends' friends.
Right. Yeah.
And they certainly can be. And I've had work friends that become really good personal friends and all that. And that's wonderful. But at the same time, like most of the people that you work with, you're really just sort of sharing a space with them and you're working on your projects together. And honestly, if you didn't work in the same place with them, you probably wouldn't know them, be friends with them. You don't have a lot in common outside of that stuff.
Right.
That your interests are different and all of that. And that's perfectly fine and perfectly okay. And it's good to interact. And I think this is one of the things that I miss the most about an office is it's really good to interact with people that you wouldn't normally run into in your normal daily life. People will push your ideas, your perceptions, your preconceived notions and beliefs about all kinds of different things. And because you work together, you have to work it out. You have to find a way to work with somebody that has a little bit of a different or a difficult personality and still get things done with them. You have to find a way to work with the person who's a go-getter all day long. And it seems like they're like hyped up on Adderall or something like, and where do you get all this energy from? And you have to figure out how to handle that person because they're so like buzzing all the time and how to bring them back down. Like, okay, here's a plan. You have to figure out how to work with the different personalities. And I think that is honestly something that I kind of miss though. For me,
it's a challenge.
Yeah, it's the challenge, but it's also like, it's how you grow as a person, right? If you just surround yourself with people that make you comfortable all the time, then you're just going to be the same person you've always been. I like to surround myself with different people with different perspectives and personalities because it challenges me to grow and become a different, better, hopefully better person, but also to be able to see like some of the gaps in my own personality that I need to fill or fix or whatever too. That sort of constant,
Yeah. I agree. Well, I do feel like, and I've talked about this with a lot of like post-COVID college grads coming out in their 20s and stuff like that. It's that remote working is so common now. Like a lot of them come out of college and move into a remote working situation. And I think that's hard because a lot of your socialization happens in those first couple of years in your first job, dealing with difficult people, dealing with difficult situations, having happy hour drinks with that is your network in your work a lot of times becomes your social network for the beginning. And I think a lot of kids, young folks, people under 30 don't have that because they're immediately moving into remote working. That I think causes that thing I've seen it cause a lot of problem with like mental health and things like that and isolation that they feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that in my first job, I got the benefit of working in an office for a small software company that was purchased by a larger pharmaceutical company. And so we were a small team owned by a big company. And it was helpful to get to know the people on the small team. We all worked together really well. They taught me a lot about the world that I was entering in terms of software development, but also like healthcare supply chain management and all these other little things that they don't teach you in college, but you have to learn whatever based on your business. And so I learned a ton about supply chain management from these guys that had worked in, the supply chain world for years and years and years. I would have never gotten that interaction being at home because they just kind of sit down with me. They, at the time, they were the guys with 20 years experience and they would sit down with me at lunch or whatever. And I would say, why does the software do this? And why does it need to do this in this way and all that? And they would just sort of draw it out on a piece of paper and, very informally share all their knowledge. I think that's the part that sort of early young people miss out on is that opportunity to gather that funnel of information, that institutional knowledge from these people. I mean, I don't do supply chain management now, but I'm very grateful to Dave and Gary for sitting down and telling me that stuff and explaining it. It made me, when I got into hospitals and started, helping them with their software and in pharmacies and things, I had context by the time I showed up there because they were kind enough to share that information.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't treat me like I was an idiot. They educated. And that was great.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think like moving into the world of like freelance and remote work, I think one of the things we have written down here for notes is just that with the rise of remote work coming in the last 5 or 6 years, do you feel like it's made it easier for people to transition into self-employment? Like making it, if I'm working at home by myself anyway for a business, is it less of a big jump than it was for us to move from regular employed to self-employed?
I think it's a double-edged sword in some ways.
Yeah.
Part of it is, in my mind, it's easier to move to freelance if you have a big network of people
Mm-hmm.
and a big network of people that that trust you, that trust your judgment, have seen you work, know what your work ethic is like, know who you are. That is absolutely critical to being successful as a freelancer. And
Yeah.
so my question there would be like, how are you going to develop that network if you've always worked from home?
Mm-hmm.
If you have developed that network in other ways, say, social groups or clubs or whatever, then maybe you can utilize that network. But there is a real benefit in my mind to working with people so that they know who you are and they can vouch for you and recommend you to other people.
Yeah.
To say like, you're good at this thing. So I think that part is the hard part. I think the beneficial part though is if you work from home for a company, you have to develop some sort of daily working routine. You have to get up in the morning and get ready for that morning status call
Mm-hmm.
every morning. You probably need to dress relatively well. At this point, everybody expects you to not be in your pajamas and all of those.
Mm-hmm.
So it does teach you sort of a work ethic at home by yourself with some structure. And if you
Yeah.
are employed early on by a company that expects that, I think that's a really, really good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you get older, you become a little more self-reliant. You can manage your own schedule. You can do all those types of things. I think so. It's a double-edged sword. But if you don't have that network of people that can recommend as you start, you're going to have a rough time, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Being
And
free-
I think it's, jumping into freelance when people don't consider either they haven't had to build a network because they've been remote since they started, or maybe they're just, young in their career. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say when I started freelancing that I knew how to build a network because it had just kind of been served to me in my job.
Yeah.
So I think the first year, especially what we see with a lot of freelancers is, when you feel that isolation, it can cover a couple different places, right? It comes from fear, which is always like number one thing that always pops up is like, I'm afraid I don't know what I'm doing. I'm afraid no one's going to hire me. I'm afraid if I submit this design, it's terrible. You don't have your sounding board and you don't have your network around you. And that's why it becomes so critical to start to find those people that you would otherwise have in your office. It's like your virtual team around you, because otherwise it's really hard for you to move it's hard for you to move your business forward because you're just kind of stuck in place with not being able to like make decisions or move past fear. You
Right.
just kind of get frozen.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely important to have that cheerleader person as your first person. I think, the person that says you
Yes.
can do it and I believe in you. You have the skills to do this, and somebody that can maybe help walk you through some of the initial fears. I've done this
Mhm.
before. I've been freelancing for 5 years or 10 years, and here's some things that brought me some success. So when we talk about like putting together that team, to me, that's kind of the first person that you need on your team,
Yeah.
right? Is somebody that not just believes in you, but also will help you or listen to you talk through those fears.
I agree. I do feel like you need somebody that's going to pull you out when you're having like a bad day. You get a bad client call, you're whatever's happening. You didn't get a job that you wanted, and you can call them and you can be like, I'm a terrible person and I'm making bad decisions. And they can be like, no, John, this is a good call for you. You're going to find another job. It's going to move forward. The next client's going to hire you for this thing. And I think that's really critical in the first, like if you're finding somebody first, like that's a good one. And then I remember one of the stories, and I'm going to use this person's name, so hopefully they're okay. But I remember when I first started, I was like scrambling around and just, again, questioning every decision I was making. And I remember going to a networking event and meeting a freelancer, and her name's Carrie. I won't use her last name. And she's a writer, and she'd been freelancing for longer than I had. I'd been freelancing for like a hot minute. And so meeting her and some other people there who are more senior freelancers gave me such hope too. I'm like, okay, I can do this, and I can do this as a career. Because there was people there who had been doing it for 15 years. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is not just a 6-month thing. This could be a career. And so meeting Carrie and meeting this other person, other people there at that event really gave me like the gas I needed to keep going through some of those hard things. So we kind of call that person that archetype of like the Yoda or like a mentor who you can really look up to, and they can say, yes, I've done that before. Don't panic. It's going to get better. I think those two people are really critical to start building your network with.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me. I'm not traditionally a creative. Like I'm a creative in that I make music for myself at home, but I'm not a person ever paid my bills as a graphic designer or a copywriter or anything like that. I've done it through operation stuff. But there is this thing I think that designers, copywriters, creatives in general struggle with, which is client feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I handle it? And when you're a freelancer at first, it's different when you're at an agency or at a place, a workspace where you know maybe there's a buffer between you and the client, the manager, account manager, or whatever, versus you're working directly with the client. You need to please this client in order to get paid. So you need a successful project, but at the same time, you have to be responsible for setting boundaries with them, setting a project scope and a budget and a timeline, and holding them accountable, much as they're holding you accountable. All of that stuff. How did you learn some of that when you first got started? I know you met some people, but can you tell us a story about maybe something that didn't go well and then how somebody pulled you out of it or something?
I have so many stories about how it didn't go well. I think that's honestly really where it's really helpful to have a senior freelancer on your team or a couple that you can say, I'm in a situation where I've underscoped or underestimated a project and I'm getting pinched and I really want to go back and ask for more money, but this is a new client. Like, what is your experience and what's your thoughts? So there was a couple times pretty early on, and that's very, very typical, where you will underestimate yourself and you have to eat the cost. Mm-hmm. And that was the advice my person gave to me, was like, sometimes you just have to know that this is a learning, and the next time you're going to do it, you're going to estimate a little higher and you're going to think through those extra things. So I think like that's a good example of that happened to me several times. And then I think also, like, I'm a pretty even keel kind of person, but sometimes something can just like really tick me off. And it's every once in a while. And especially with sometimes with client feedback or clients that can maybe not, you can have really great clients, and you can have clients that can be borderline abusive. And when you're in a situation where you need the work, you need the money, sometimes you kind of get yourself into a situation where you're just like, kind of a kicked puppy. And what you need in that situation is you need a devil's advocate type person. You need to go and say, I'm so frustrated, but I'm afraid. What they can do is kind of talk to you pragmatically about, like, what if you do option 1 and you fire that client? What's the worst that can happen? What if you do option 2 and you call them and cuss them out on the phone? You need somebody that can help you think about all those different pieces and also help you to calm down. Like, I'm about ready to pick up the phone and cuss them out. No, take a minute, walk around the block, breathe. It's just a job. So I think it's also important to have that person on your team that is going to, deliver it honestly to you, and also think about you kind of holistically. And I had several situations where I was like, I sort of burned the house down, and they would be like, no, take a minute, send that email tomorrow, put it in drafts, don't send it. And that is like a super important person to have on your side too.
Yeah, definitely. I am often the devil's advocate person, I think, for people, because I'm like, look at this from a couple of different directions. But yeah, I think that's another person. So now we've covered sort of a Yoda type figure, a mentor. Yep. We've covered a cheerleader. We've covered the devil's advocate person. Yeah. So how then can a freelancer start to think about their team? How can they start to build a team? And I guess it's almost like you're asking a person like, hey, will you be my devil's advocate for me?
Yeah.
This or are you just slowly like gathering them and then sort of talking? But should you be upfront with them and just say like, hey, I need somebody to play devil's advocate on occasion. Will you be that person for me?
Yeah, I think it depends on how you operate as a person. Like if I'm pretty outspoken and I'm pretty direct. I'll be like, hey, I need you to be my cheerleader. I'm going to call you when I'm melting down. Can you give me some rah-rah and cheer me up? And I'll be the same for you. I think you can completely be direct and say like, I'm building my freelance team around me. And I think you are really great at staying positive all the time. I love that characteristic about you. And I'd love you to do that for me. I think it's, it's flattering. And it's also like, yeah, I'd love to help you out with something that comes really naturally to me. And then you can offer the same to them. Like, let me know how I can support you. And I think that's a really great way to approach it. You can also just meet people over the course of, networking and then be like, hey, I love me. Can I call you if I'm running into questions about, how to work with clients? I know you've been doing this for 10 years. So it totally depends on how you want to approach it. But I think it's always, if someone ever comes up to me and is like, I noticed a characteristic in you that I would love to have on my team, that's super flattering and it's hard to turn down.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it always feels nice when people see you and respect your perspective, your ideas, your thoughts. And it does feel nice to help people too. That's one of the things about Uncompany, I think, that has been so fulfilling, is to be able to play some of those different roles for people and then watch their businesses grow.
Yeah.
They come to us for some piece of advice or support or whatever. And sometimes just being the person in the room that's listening and maybe asking a couple of questions, and then 9 times out of 10, people will solve their own problems if they just talk long enough and they just feel like there's somebody
Yeah.
there, to listen. You don't have to be, if you're the person on the other side that's like the mentor or the whatever, you don't have to have answers even. I think that's one of the things that I've learned, is you just need to sort of listen, let them talk, maybe ask a couple questions, whatever comes to mind. And then it's amazing how just doing that will help a person work through it.
Yeah.
I guess that's talk therapy in general, right? Like that's what sometimes
I think having a sounding board of somebody who's in a similar life stage is so essential. And that's why I like communities, especially for freelancers. And we just started our yacht club community. I'm excited to see how that grows. But I think when you are in a place where you're either working remotely or you're self-employed, I think it's really important to find a community that you can connect with. It could be a freelance community. It could be a church community. It could be an athletic community. It could be whatever. But, we've talked about this before and other stuff about how communities are so important. And I think this world and how we operate too tends to be naturally isolating. We all work from home. We're working on one client at a time. We are the only person providing services versus being a part of a team. So seeking out those communities that you feel really drawn to, whether they're work related or something else, recreational, I think is really important. And, to add on top of that, it's like, and don't turn off the idea that you could build a team that could work with you. And we talk a lot about people growing their business through subcontracting and building small teams. Yep. That's another way to really grow and build that office-like work vibe where you have other people who rely on you and you rely on them. And I think that's like super healthy and a smart way to grow your business if you feel like you want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And not everybody wants to have their own sort of subcontractors or whatever, but even just building a network of, I'm a copywriter, you're a graphic designer. If I have a client that comes to me and wants a logo, then I can send them over to you and you can do that work. And then when you have a client that wants some copywriting, then you can send them over to me. Like just having friend networks or groups that you can send different work to and sort of like pay it forward and all that. That helps. It builds relationships. It's like if you help and support each other in your own, solo businesses, that is to me the best way to build those relationships. You really start to get to know people. You get to work together with clients that are mutual, that you bring each other, and all of that really, really helps. Do you have any other ideas or thoughts about how to nurture, build relationships when you're not face to face every single day?
Yeah, I think it's harder for some people too, because some people are naturally like, I love to talk and chatter and I'm a connector and I can do that. But sometimes it's harder for people, and I think you have to be aware of like, what is realistic for you to maintain? Is it realistic for you to maintain a Discord channel where you're chatting all the time? Probably not. Like, is it realistic for you to maintain like, hey, every Friday or every other Friday or Friday once a month, we're going to meet at Caribou Coffee and whoever wants to come, we're going to just chat about our business. And it could be one commitment a month. It could be something small like that. But I think it's important to think about how you like to network and how you interact and what feels natural to you. Because if it's not easy for you and it's not natural, then you won't maintain it. So starting by thinking through like what that looks like for you and then just building it into part of your day-to-day. Think about that team building aspect as part of your business, just like you're thinking about new business as part of your business and dealing with your finances as part of your business. This is also kind of a critical part of your business. And so figuring out how you can add it into your workflow, I think it is really important. And just really being honest with like, what is it that you want to maintain and what you want to build? I think the question people come up with is mentors. Like, how do I find a mentor? What's a mentor? And blah, blah, blah. And having a mentor is really great. And that could mean a lot of different things for different people. I think when you go in to find a mentor, you can be really, really clear about what you're looking for. Like sometimes people come up to me and say like, oh, can you mentor me? And I ask them, what are you hoping to get out of it? And they don't have any idea. So it's really hard for me to take on agreeing to be a mentor for somebody if it's really, really loosey-goosey, because it's also, I'm thinking about my time and what am I contributing? So I would say if you're looking for a mentor type relationship, then really outline what are your expectations. Oh, I want to meet once a month on a Zoom call or for a coffee. And this is what I'd love to have help on, something like that. So they understand too, like if I say yes to this and I'm committing to one coffee a month and maybe like 2 to 3 hours a month on emails or phone calls. So that kind of stuff I think is really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can start either formally or informally.
Mhm.
So, you can, there are informal mentors all over the place, but if what you're talking about, like I have a specific goal in mind and all of that, like being kind of buttoned up about it really, really helps. I would look at it the same way as if I was going to hire a personal trainer to do exercise. The first thing
Yeah.
I'm going to come in and ask you is like, why are you here? What are your goals physically? Are you trying to, run a marathon? Are you just trying to, not run out of breath when you walk up 3 flights of steps? Like where are we starting from? And then what's your level of commitment? Do you want to come once a week, twice a week? You know, are you going to do your homework every time? Like all those types of things. And if you have all that answered for them when you go in to that relationship, it means that the trainer can build a program for you that will
Mhm.
help. It would be the same thing with a mentor. It's like, okay, if I have all of that in an understanding, I could say like, yeah, I can commit to coffee once a month. And sure, we can talk over Zoom, maybe one other time. But here are the things that I expect from you. And as a mentor, I would also throw that back and say, like, here are some things, like if we're going to have this type of relationship, when you use my time, I expect you to come prepared with these things. And if we talk about it,
Yeah.
before, let's see some progress as we go along. I'm not here just to be the shoulder that you cry on. I want to help you get better,
Right.
sort of
Yeah.
thing too. So it kind of goes
Yeah.
both ways. Like you need to have a plan as the mentee, and as the mentor, you should probably think about if you're somebody with 10 years experience as a freelancer and you want to take on someone, what am I willing to commit to too? Yeah.
And I think it's like depending on what level of business person you're bringing on, the level of professionalism and what you're seeking. Like if I'm going and I'm asking for an executive to mentor me, then that person's time is very valuable and I need to be really buttoned up. And same thing if I'm going and like we always talk about one of our other team members would be like the pro or the professional. So if I'm going to hire a CPA or I'm going to hire a wealth manager or I'm going to talk to a lawyer, I would walk into that situation knowing what I'm looking for. And so you need to really like all those relationships you're trying to nurture within reason, like have an idea of what you hope to get out of it and also what you can also contribute. I think that's respectful of like both sides, everybody's time equally, no matter who you're talking to, whether it's like the cheerleader person or you're interviewing a CPA or you're talking to an executive, like think through that what I want to get out of it and what I can also share before you kind of walk into those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So how can freelancers who are missing socialization just in general, how can they add some of that back into their lives? What are some ways that we can do that? Obviously, you can go to networking events. That's
Yes.
one. What are some other ideas? What are some other ways to do that?
I think like, there's co-working spaces, they're still out there and they have a lot of, depending on which ones you're going to, they have a lot of baked in events and like mingle things and lunch and learns. And so if you're looking for that, I mean, co-working spaces do a really good job replicating that office environment, especially if you're going there every day and you're seeing the same people. So I, look at that. And a lot of them are pretty flexible. Like, we have one here called Frontier that's super flexible and you can come in and you can use the space downstairs and they have all those events baked in. Some of them you can actually do day passes and things like that can make them more like economically feasible. I think co-working communities, virtual co-working, online communities like we have one company called Yacht Club, which we're launching. Just look for those opportunities to kind of connect and be social. And sometimes, depending on where you are in life, where you are living, sometimes it'll be easier for you to find them. If you're a little bit more remote, maybe the virtual ones are a little bit better, but just they're out there. You just really have to go and kind of figure out where they are for you. And then I also just say like, just get out instead of working at home every single day, get out and go work in a coffee shop. Like just mix up your routine that puts you around other people. That is helpful because, you'll find yourself meeting the same people. Like when I was first freelancing, I just frequent every single coffee shop and every single library all over. And I would start bumping into the same people who were doing the same thing. And so naturally we started to notice each other and be like, oh, let's get lunch after this. So those kind of things too would be a really easy way to add socialization without disrupting too much of your routine.
Yeah. If you start to get creative about that, there's a lot of places that you can work for free with Wi-Fi that you wouldn't necessarily
Target. There you go.
Yeah. Not just the coffee shop. I mean, I know Margaret McNabb sometimes works at the Durham Hotel in the lobby that she says that's her place to be. She's been on our podcast and said that. So, sometimes you can work in places like a really nice hotel lobby because they just want people there and mingling and create energy. And she has meetings there and everything. I've known some freelancers that have worked in like university libraries. Now, I don't know if that's cool or not, or if they're sneaking in or but they do it. And it's because they want energy and they want to be around people and all that. And so you can get a little bit creative in terms of the spot
Hmm.
that you're at. It doesn't just have to be, your local coffee shop around the corner or co-working
Yeah.
in a paid space. And then also, like you mentioned, Frontier, there are some, especially in larger cities, incubator spaces that will do a little bit of a, free co-working on some level with the hope that as you grow, you'll, rent office space in other places. And things
Hmm.
like that. So
Yeah.
definitely look into incubators as well,
Hmm.
business incubators, and see if there's other opportunities to meet. So you mentioned Yacht Club a couple of times,
Hmm.
and this is
Yeah,
new for us. This is
it is.
something that we are launching in 2026 with Uncompany. Can you give the listeners a brief idea about what we're planning, what the idea is here, and how people can participate, and why it's important for them if they join to actively participate? It's not a passive community. This isn't
Hmm.
like, sort of a Slack channel or Discord channel. Like the idea here is that we're on it and kind of virtually co-working together to create more of this feeling of
Yeah.
unity.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. We are actually launching this week, so launching in February. And it's really like we've always, we started Uncompany from the basis of freelance community. And that's where the idea initially came from, Uncompany. And, we've worked through several different ways, Discord, meetups, and things like that to kind of create that feeling. And Yacht Club is going to be the online version of that. One of the things that we want to do is really tie it into providing some content and ideas. This month we're talking about loneliness, we're talking about isolation, but also building a team. And so the idea is each month we'll rotate through different types of content. We'll provide really cool downloads. We'll have some webinars. We'll bring in some experts, but then also just, using that as a forum to facilitate conversation amongst all different stages of freelancers, so that we can really share our businesses, how they're working, and help each other. So yeah, I'm excited for people to join it and jump in there. And like you said, don't sit back and watch me talk because
Yeah.
that's easy, but participate, ask questions, and, share your opinions in there. And I think it can be a really colorful, vibrant community. And maybe we could have some live events and things like that in the future. So
Yeah.
we're really excited this year to see how this kind of manifests itself and how it grows.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that, communities are only as valuable as the time and energy that you put into them. And
Hmm.
so, as a freelancer, if you want to join Yacht Club, we are happy to have you. But it is also one of those things where it's a two-way street. We're going to feed you some content, but we want to hear back from you. Your response to that content is ideas, questions, thoughts for new things. Don't just be the type of person that absorbs it and then goes on with their day. Give us some feedback, help us get better, but also share your knowledge and experience with other people in the community, because that's really what we're trying to do here is connect people so that you can build your own teams of support
Hmm.
people, your own Yoda, your own, cheerleader, and your own devil's advocate, and all these other ways that people can build it. So I'm really excited. I'm really stoked about it. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be hopefully a source of some new, better, more integrated, tighter relationships, which is going to be really cool. All right, now lightning round. What do you do when it feels too quiet in your home office?
Put on music. Obviously, that's a pretty easy one. Yeah, I mean, I'm on calls a lot, so I'm constantly usually talking. So it's the quiet is usually nice to be like, okay, silence. But if I'm feeling a little bit like, wow, this is kind of boring, we'll crank some music up.
Yeah, definitely music. When I first started working from home by myself, I turned on ESPN and just let Sports Center run in the background all day
Yes.
long, like because Sports Center
Yes.
would be the same hour and it would just cycle
Yeah.
through. Um, and after you hear it once, you don't need to hear it again. But it felt like there were other people around talking.
I know. That's so true. I did the same thing with like all the 27 hours of the Today Show when I first started, and I called them like my people in the office.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
ESPN would have been better.
yeah. So well, for me at the time, especially, it was Sports Center. I think whether that's some people listen to talk radio or podcasts or whatever. I just found having the noise of other people sort of murmuring in the background, it helped me feel like there was somebody else around.
Yeah.
And occasionally I would listen to music. I would do other things. I am naturally distracted by music. Music occupies all of my attention when I listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
Very difficult for me to put it in the background unless there's no singing, no words. If there are words singing, it like I can't help, but I end up singing along and doing whatever. And then I forget where I'm at. So I can do, instrumental music sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Atmospheric music works. But I found that, noise in the background, people talking, at a sort of a lower level was really the thing for me. All right.
Mhm.
conference room treat do you miss the
Ew.
most? The, food or whatever people drop down in the middle of the table.
Yeah, I don't remember them having a lot of food. I mean, probably bagels.
Mm,
It was usually bagels over donuts. If there was there would always be like the weird fruit tray that nobody would really eat.
yeah.
But usually bagels were always in there. There was and usually it wasn't for us. It was like they had a big important person meeting and there was bagels and stuff. And then whatever was left over would get sent over to like the kitchen. And then there would be this like dive in, everyone would devour whatever was left over. But I never got the fresh stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, sweets are my Achilles heel just in general. So, I mean, if it was a birthday and there was cake, or if there's donuts or whatever, if it was sweet, I was in trouble. I miss all the sweets, but I used to have a coworker who she would keep candy on her desk, and she started buying the candy, I think, just for me. It was like she was a coworker at first, and she ended up becoming my supervisor. She would constantly refill the bowl with Tootsie Rolls or whatever else, and I appreciated it so much, but at the same time, I gained a lot of weight. So,
Yeah.
but I would sit there and
Thank you, but no thank you.
well, I would sit there and eat and work, and it was like she saw that it worked for me. It was like, I'm a puppy dog, and you just feed me, and I'll just perform and eat more. And yeah, so I had a real Tootsie Roll problem there for a while, honestly, serious addiction. But yeah,
That's a
so
good candy.
once I started working from home, I backed off the Tootsie Rolls. Yeah, it helps. But yeah, so I do kind of miss the candy. I kind of miss that stuff, but I don't need it. Really don't. So now that you've worked remotely for quite a while now, do you think you could ever return to an in-person environment 5 days a week?
No. Mm-mm. Not unless that in-person environment was like, I don't know, a resort in Fiji or something I don't know. No. It would have to be a pretty epic location office. I mean, I don't mind going into a place, but I think 5 days a week would be really hard for me to do the same. I would get too crazy with being like, I'm doing, it's too repetitive for me. Like I need that flexibility.
Yeah, yeah. I would need a place that's almost like an amusement park, like some trampolines, some rides that you can go on, some yeah. I mean, we have a client that has a golf simulator in their office. I think that's really cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that office, and maybe I would go in for that office.
Yeah, like that would be
pickleball downstairs. They have a bar upstairs. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. I think it would need to draw me more than just the work, the desk, the space, because I really feel more productive when I have my own space. So the office needs to be, for me, the social communal space to get to meet people, hang out, do whatever. But I need a quiet time space to work. So if I had to go to an office 5 days a week, I would want a quiet space to work in addition to it. So I would basically request either a private office or a semi-private space or office that I can close the door or shut down a thing if you want me to be productive. And but you want me to participate in this one giant room with everyone else, I'm not going to be productive for you. This is not going to be the place for me.
Yeah. Depends what you want. Yeah.
Yeah. But sure, cool. I'm down with a golf simulator and some trampolines and some I don't know, something fun to do, maybe a workout space. But yeah, for the interaction side of it. I do not need a bar in my office space though, because I did that once in an office, and while it was fun and nice and all that sort of thing, it is also dangerous.
Well, I gotta say, I worked in a couple like really beautiful offices that had all the like cool ping pong things and bars, and the space is beautiful and wonderful, but and I didn't mind being in the office, but I now after working remotely and having the flexibility to be like, it's a sunny day and I'm not going to go in today, or I'm not going to work today. The flexibility just wins hands down over going even to a hyper cool office.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the flexibility is super, super important. And, but I wonder if people's perception of showing your face in an office has changed and is going to change, evolve even more, to mean that we are there when we're there to work together. And then we have some more flexibility around time and to do some things, or take an afternoon to go walk around the block. You don't have to show my face all the time, 12 hours a day anymore. There can be a hybrid experience maybe that works, I guess is what I'm saying. A full 5 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day. Nah, that's prison to me. So, and also I don't think that's I don't think I would do the best work in that environment.
Yeah.
So All right. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in and quitting with us. If you are new to the podcast, you can visit us at commandqpodcast.com. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You can check out our shorts on LinkedIn. And yeah, if you want to learn more about joining our proud community of quitters, you can also go to weareuncompany.com. You can learn more about the Yacht Club and what we're doing there. And if you have any questions about the Yacht Club, you can also just leave comments at the podcast, and we will reach out to you and connect you to the Yacht Club that way. So
Yeah.
until next time, I'm John.
And I'm Maari.
And we're reminding you that quitters can win and winners can quit. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the guest's own and do not necessarily represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Command Q or Uncompany.